fast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to robot facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation.
And today, we're diving deep into a feature piece about the silent crisis in our alleys. Farmer suicide.
I know. It's a heavy topic. And to be honest, when we first put this on the editorial calendar, I saw you hesitate.
I did.
And I think a lot of our listeners, when they see that title, their first instinct is maybe to skip this one. They're thinking, I don't have time for feelings right now.
Yeah, exactly. I have cows to milk. I have a scraper that just went down. And the milk price is... well, you know where the milk price is.
You nailed it. That was exactly your first thought, wasn't it?
It was. Usually we're here to argue about genomic sires or, we're tearing apart a USDA production report. We're debating whether robots actually pay off in under 5 years.
Right.
That's the stuff I like. That's the stuff that feels like farming. When people start talking about mental wellness in agriculture, my eyes, I'll admit, they usually glaze over a little bit.
Why do you think that is? What's that resistance?
Because my mind immediately goes to the milk check. It goes to the feed bill. It goes to that fresh heifer that just slipped in the crossover and whether she's going to make it back into the herd. It feels like luxury problems.
Or something you can't afford to deal with.
Yeah, or just something you shove down deep so you can get the work done. You put on the boots and you go.
Yeah.
But reading through this piece, this article, Silent Alleys, this isn't just about feeling sad. This is, it's about the fact that we are losing good operators.
We are.
We are losing neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And from my perspective, this isn't just about losing a friend, which is, of course, devastating. It's about the survival of family legacies.
That's exactly.
It's about genetics programs that took 30, maybe 50 years to build, just vanishing in a single afternoon because the person who held it all together isn't there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the economic viability of our entire rural community. I mean, if the farmers go, the feed mill goes, the vet goes, the town goes with them.
Exactly. And to put a finer point on it from the data side, because, that's where I live, the source material we're looking at today shows a direct, quantifiable correlation between farmer mental health and herd performance metrics.
Okay.
This is the part that really grabbed me, and I think it's going to grab the listener who, like you, thinks they don't have time for this.
The listener who just wants to talk about cows.
Right. The source material suggests that ignoring your own headspace, your own stress level, is actually bad business strategy. It is measurably bad for your bottom line.
And that's the bullvine angle we always promise, isn't it? The contrarian take.
It has to be.
Because the culture, everything we're taught, tells us to tough it out. The industry says, grin and bear it, rub some dirt on it, stop complaining because your grandfather had it way worse.
Always.
But what we're going to unpack today is this idea that your cows, they might actually know you're in trouble before your own spouse does.
That is a bold statement. I mean, that sounds like something out of a marketing brochure.
It does, but we're going to back it up. We're going to talk about some fascinating robotic milking data and how it can, in a way, predict suicide risk.
It sounds unbelievable, but the data is there. It really is. So we are going to challenge that tough it out culture, not just because it's unhealthy for people, but because it is a direct operational liability.
It's a risk factor.
It's a risk factor, just like a broken gate on a pen or a slippery floor in the parlor.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's start with segment 1, problem identification. The source article frames this so perfectly by contrasting two very different types of death on the farm. They call it the silence versus the spectacle.
Right, and they start with the story of Reed Hostetler. And this hit me hard reading it. This was just back in March of 2025 over in Ohio, a young guy, 31 years old, a dairyman. And it's the nightmare scenario we all dread every single time we start a PTO or walk near a pit.
Walk us through what happened there.
It's March in Ohio, so you know exactly what that's like. It's wet, it's muddy, everything is slick with that spring thaw. He's climbing onto a tractor to agitate a manure pit.
Okay.
and the tractor tips. He goes in.
God, it's horrifying, just the thought of it.
It is. And the article details how his brothers, they jumped in right after him trying to save him. They risked their own lives in that moment, breathing in that gas, fighting the suction. But the pit won.
It's a complete tragedy.
A complete tragedy. But what the article highlights next is the response. And anyone listening to this who lives in a farm community, you know exactly what this looks like. You've seen it.
The cavalry arrives.
Instantly, the community descends. The article mentions they had to fix up the long gravel driveway to the farm because the frost was coming out of the ground, and they knew hundreds, maybe thousands of cars were coming.
They were preparing for the support.
They put down stones so the mourners wouldn't sink in the mud. The barn was overflowing for the funeral. Everyone stood shoulder to shoulder. It was loud support. It was visible. We are here for you.
Oh.
He was a good man. He died doing what he loved.
It's that classic rural rally, and we are so good at that. When there is a physical accident, a barn fire, a tornado, farmers are the best first responders in the world. We show up with casseroles and skid steers and checkbooks.
We do. We're amazing at it.
But then the article pivots, and it asks us to compare that huge, loud, public response to the whispered deaths.
Yeah.
To the suicides.
And it's night and day. It is a completely different world.
There are no fundraisers. There are no, we lost one of our own rallies in the town square.
Yeah.
You get a short obituary in the paper. Maybe the cause of death is omitted entirely, or it just says, died suddenly at home. And then it's just silent.
It's the empty chair at the kitchen table that nobody talks about, ever.
Yeah.
And I think that contrast is so important because it shows how we, as a community, we value these lives differently, or at least how we process the loss differently.
How so?
If you die in a tractor rollover, you're a martyr to the industry. It's tragic, but it's seen as, part of the job. It's a risk we all accept.
It's an honorable death, in a way.
In a way, yeah. But
Yeah.
if you die by your own hand, you're a secret. You're a shame. You're something to be whispered about behind closed doors.
And that secrecy, that silence, is masking a massive statistical reality. Let's get into the core data here because it's pretty shocking.
Okay, lay it on me.
Between 2000 and 2018, rural suicide rates in the U.S. rose 48%.
48.
48%. Compare that to 34% in urban areas. So the curve is steeper out here, where we all live and work.
So it's already bad everywhere, but it's getting worse faster for us.
Exactly. But then you zero in specifically on farmers. The source says farmers are about 3.5 times more likely to die by suicide than the general population.
3.5 times. That's not a rounding error. That isn't just a slightly bad year for the industry. That is a systemic failure.
It's a crisis. The specific rate they mention for male farmers, ranchers, and agricultural managers is 43.2 deaths per 100,000.
And what's the average for a regular worker?
Much, much lower. It's not even in the same ballpark. We are in a category of our own alongside some other very high-stress professions.
When you hear a stat like 43 deaths per 100,000, it sounds clinical. It sounds like something from a government report.
It does. It's abstract.
But when you live in a county with maybe 500 active dairy families, you do the math. That means everyone knows someone. Everyone. It's a different world out in the country. We have, the isolation. We have ready access to lethal means. Firearms are the dominant method, as the source points out, but 3.5 times the general population.
That's staggering.
If we had a calf mortality rate that was 3.5 times the industry average, what would we do?
We'd panic. We would declare a state of emergency on the farm.
We would be calling every vet in the state. We'd be tearing the barn apart, looking for the pathogen. We'd be changing the ventilation, changing the milk replacer, firing the calf feeder. We would do something.
We would treat it as an emergency.
An absolute emergency. We would treat it as an operational crisis.
Yeah.
But with our own people, we treat it as, a character flaw.
Right.
Or just the way it is.
Or we just don't talk about it.
We just don't talk about it. Which brings us to the next point, and this is the one that I think is going to make some people listening a little uncomfortable, but we need to hear it. This is where the source article really digs in with that Bullvine style of myth-busting.
Right. Segment 2, the industry reality check. There is this myth out there, right? The everyone knows myth. The idea that if a farmer is struggling, you'll see it, or that farm stress is this hidden internal thing that doesn't really affect the barn until it's way, way too late.
Right. We think we can compartmentalize. We tell ourselves that lie every morning. I'm stressed out, I'm not sleeping, the bank is calling every day. but I'm a professional. I don't let it affect the cows.
But you can't. It's impossible. And we're here to bust that myth. We're using a 2021 study on robotic milking herds to do it.
Okay, lay this out for me because this part is fascinating. This is where theory meets the alleyway.
It really is. So researchers looked at a number of farms that were using robotic milking systems. They had vets and hoof trimmers score cows for lameness and for underconditioning, body condition score.
So hard. Physical data on the cows.
Exactly. How the cows were walking, how much flesh they were carrying, objective data. Then they matched that herd data to mental health surveys that were filled out by the farmers who were running those herds.
And what did they find?
They found a positive, statistically significant association between farmer stress and severe lameness prevalence.
So simply put, the more stressed out the farmer is, the more severely lame cows are standing around in the alleys.
Yes. And it wasn't just stress. They found that stress and depression were higher on farms where they were still feeding manually versus having an automated TMR.
Okay, that makes sense. More labor.
They also found it was higher where farmers reported working alone most of the time. And this one is really interesting. It was also higher on farms where the milk protein was lower.
Lower milk protein. Okay, let's unpack this because I can hear the skeptics right now saying, oh, so what? The robot is a psychiatrist now? The Lily knows I'm sad? No. Let's look at the operational impact. Why does this happen in the real world? I know why. I've lived it.
Tell us, what happens in the barn when the farmer is mentally cracking up?
It's all about bandwidth. It's about mental capacity. When you are running on pure adrenaline and worry, when you are just trying to keep the lights on and make payroll, you stop doing the non-urgent stuff.
The preventative maintenance.
Exactly. You don't rebed the stalls quite as often because you're rushing to fix a broken feed chain, or you're on the phone with the bank, or maybe you're just so bone-tired you can't face it.
Yeah.
And you miss things. You miss that slight head bob at the lockup. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The cow that's just starting to favor one foot.
The very first sign.
The very first sign. If you're sharp, if your head is in the game, you catch it. You pull her out, you wrap it. She's fine in 3 days. But if you're staring at your phone, just waiting for the lender to call you back, you walk right past her. You miss it. And 3 days later, she's three-legged lame and off 100 pounds of milk.
It's a complete loss of focus on the details that matter.
And foot baths. Oh man, foot baths are the first thing to go. Mixing up that solution, hauling those 50-pound bags of copper sulfate. It's heavy, it's messy, it's a chore. If you're exhausted and depressed, you look at it, you say, you know what? I'll get to it next week.
And next week becomes next month.
Exactly. And suddenly you've got hairy heel warts or digital dermatitis flaring up across the whole herd, and now you have a real fire to put out.
And what about the trim lists?
Oh, the trim lists. If you're scared to spend a single dollar because milk is at $16 and your feed bill is late, are you calling the hoof trimmer for routine maintenance?
Probably not.
No. Maybe you push that visit back 3 weeks to save a few bucks. Or you tell yourself, oh, I'll just trim that one problem cow myself. But you never get around to it because you're working 16 hours a day, all by yourself.
So the takeaway here is actually profound. Lameness isn't just a stall design problem. It isn't just a nutrition problem or a genetic problem. It is a mental health KPI, a key performance indicator for the human element of the farm.
That hits hard. If your lameness rate is up and your production is down, check your own head. Before you go and blame the premix, before you blame the quality of the sand in the stalls, look in the mirror. Are you functioning? Because if you aren't, the cows are the first ones to feel it. They are the canary in the coal mine.
And that links back to the why now. If we can frame this mental health as a production metric, maybe it gives permission for some of these tough it out guys to actually address it. You would never ignore a high somatic cell count. You shouldn't ignore this.
But we also have to acknowledge why the stress is there in the first place. It's not just, brain chemistry. It's the brutal economic environment we are operating in.
Absolutely. Segment 3, follow the money, the economic squeeze.
This is where we get real. The source brings up Wisconsin as the prime example, the poster child for this crisis. In the year 2000, Wisconsin had farm numbers in the mid-teens. Thousands of dairy farms.
Right, around 15, 16,000.
By 2024, the number is roughly 5,222.
That's a 70% loss.
70% of the dairies in America's dairy land, gone. In less than 25 years. That is a hollowing out of an entire industry and a way of life.
And it's not just numbers on a page, it's the get big or get out trap that everyone talks about.
It is. The article mentions a farmer named Jerry Volanek and his story. Man, it's so relatable. He started with 70 cows. He did everything the experts told him to do, everything you're supposed to do.
He followed the playbook?
The exact playbook. Grew to 300 cows, started milking 3 times a day, farmed more land. But here's the kicker.
He said he was doing it with fewer people than he had when he was milking 70 cows.
Exactly. And the result. He said he only broke even through great personal sacrifice. The happiness, he said, was just sucked out of him. He didn't want to be that guy, always stressed, always broke, always working. But the economics of the industry forced his hand.
And looking at the 2020s economics specifically, the source highlights the sharp rise in Chapter 12 bankruptcies. We're seeing 50% year-over-year increases in some regions.
It's the squeeze. It's coming from all sides. We've got these massive price shocks from trade disputes, Mexico, China, Canada. The milk price can swing 65 cents to $1.75 per hundredweight just because of some tariff rumor on the news.
And when your margin is already razor thin, that kind of volatility is deadly.
It's impossible to budget for. And then you have the input costs. Feed, fuel, labor. The article says they're up 30 to 100% just between 2021 and 2024.
That's an incredible increase in just a few years.
Let's do the real-world math on labor for a minute. The source brings up the H-2A visa program. So many people in the city think that immigrant labor is cheap labor. It's not cheap.
Not by a long shot.
No. When you add in the housing you have to provide, the transportation, the visa fees, the mountain of compliance paperwork, the effective cost to the farm is somewhere between $30 and $35 an hour.
$35 an hour.
Try making a margin on $16 milk when your labor is costing you that much. And at the same time, the processor is taking more and more of the value. That's another key point the article makes, how the value is migrating from the producers to the processors through things like make allowances and depooling and base excess programs.
Right. So the farmer is getting squeezed from the input side with higher costs and getting squeezed from the output side with processors taking a bigger piece of the pie.
And the mental toll of that constant, unrelenting pressure. You know, farmers are good at sprinting. We can sprint through harvest. We can sprint through a bad spring planting season. But you cannot sprint forever. And that is what the economics are demanding right now, a forever sprint. And that is what is driving this stress.
Which leads us directly into who is actually breaking under this pressure. Segment 4, demographics, succession, and what the article calls the hidden depression.
This part of the article was really surprising to me.
It's called the diagnostic paradox. The data actually shows that farmers often have lower measured psychiatric morbidity, which is a clinical way of saying diagnosed depression, than the general population.
Wait, I don't get that. So we aren't depressed, but we're killing ourselves at 3 times the rate. How does that work?
Essentially, yes. And here's the paradox. It means farmers don't show up in the system. They aren't going to a therapist and getting a code for major depressive disorder put in their medical file. They just check out.
So we're not getting counted.
Exactly. The source cites an Australian study on this. It found that farming suicides were less likely to have a documented mental health history, 36% versus 46% for non-farmers, and they were less likely to have used any mental health services recently.
So they don't say, I have depression. They just say, I'm done. Or they think, maybe the farm would be better off without me in the life insurance policy.
That is a terrifyingly common thought. And that distinction is crucial because it means the standard red flags that the medical community is trained to look for, a prior diagnosis, a history of medication, they just aren't there for a lot of farmers.
We fly completely under the radar until it's too late.
Completely. There's also a significant gender dynamic at play here. A study from 2022 found that female farmers were 3.28 times more likely to report suicidal ideation.
So women think about it more.
They think about it more. But men die more often.
Because of the means. Firearms are the dominant method. It's lethal and it's immediate. There's often no second chance.
And then there's the age factor. A massive heartbreaking share of these suicides are farmers over the age of 65.
Which brings us to the succession stress.
Right.
This hits home for a lot of guys I know. You're 65, maybe you're 70. You've worked your entire life on that piece of ground. Your body's worn out. And you don't have a successor. Or maybe the kids want to take over. But you look at the books and you know the farm can't possibly support 2 families.
The source describes it as the crushing weight of being the generation that failed.
That is the sentence that keeps me up at night. The generation that failed. Just imagine, your grandfather built the barn, your father expanded the herd, and you're the one who has to call the auctioneer and sell the cows.
The identity confusion, the guilt.
It doesn't clock out when you leave the barn. It follows you into the house. It follows you to bed. It stares at you from the ceiling at 3 a.m.
It's so tragic because it conflates these massive market forces, which are completely out of your control, with a sense of personal failure. But when your entire identity is the farmer, losing the farm feels exactly like losing yourself.
So we have this massive problem. We have the data showing how bad it is. We have the economic pressure. We have the demographic crisis. What in the world do we do about it? Segment 5, case studies and solutions. Because the toolkit is, thankfully, starting to change.
It is. But first, we have to be honest about the barriers. Why don't farmers just go to the doctor and say, I'm not doing well?
Well, stigma is huge. The article says 40% of Canadian farmers admitted they'd be uneasy seeking help. But it's also just practical. It's what I call the fishbowl effect.
Explain that for the listeners who maybe aren't in a small town.
Okay, if I drive my truck and everyone in a 5-county radius knows my truck, it's the beat-up Ford with the specific decal on the back window, and I park that truck in front of the mental health clinic in town.
Someone's going to see it.
Within 20 minutes, the guy at the feed mill knows, the loan officer at the bank knows, the neighbors know, and the rumor mill starts churning. Jake's losing it. Is the farm in trouble? Maybe we should extend him any more credit this month.
That is a legitimate business fear. It's not just paranoia.
It's real risk.
Yeah.
And then there's the trust issue. I'm sorry, but I do not want to talk to a town doctor who has never pulled a calf at 2 a.m. I don't want to have to explain to a therapist why a milk check being 2 days late is a full-blown crisis. They just don't get it.
So what does work? The source highlight peer support as one of the most effective tools. And specifically, it tells the story of Randy Roker in Wisconsin.
Randy is a hero, plain and simple. He built a brand new barn right before the 2008 crash. The timing couldn't have been worse. He was losing $30,000 a month.
$30,000 a month?
Yeah. He said he stopped eating, he stopped sleeping, he was suicidal, and he's very open about it now.
He is. He's incredibly brave in sharing his story.
But here's the key to what he's doing now. He leads the Farmer Angel Network. It's a support group. And where do they hold their meetings?
In churches?
In churches, 2 counties over from where the members live.
Why 2 counties over?
So nobody recognizes the trucks in the parking lot. That is the genius of it. It's a simple, practical solution to the fishbowl effect. You can walk in there and be anonymous in a sense. You can be vulnerable without the local gossip mill grinding you up and spitting you out.
That is such a smart farmer-led adaptation. The source also mentions the Sentinels program in Quebec.
Yeah, which is basically training agronomists, vets, and feed reps to spot the signs of distress, the people who are already on the farm.
And do more ag in Canada. Their slogan is so simple but so powerful. Talk it out, don't tough it out.
There's specific programs now, too, which is new. The Farmer Wellness Initiative in Ontario has a 247 line staffed by people who understand agriculture. There are ag wellness vouchers in Utah that provide up to $2,000 for care.
And the Farm Family Wellness Alliance in the U.S. is using a platform called Togetherall, which is totally anonymous online peer support.
But I think the most revolutionary concept in this whole article is the idea of first responders who aren't actually paramedics or firefighters.
Right. It's the vets, the feed reps, the lenders, the people who are in the barn every single week.
They see the operational indicators that we talked about earlier. They see the lame cows.
Exactly. Your vet knows if you've skipped the last 3 herd checks. Your nutritionist knows if you're just staring at the bunk, totally zoned out while they're trying to talk to you about protein levels. Your lender knows if you're being evasive about your financials.
They see the cracks forming before anyone else.
The source suggests training these people in something called QPR question, persuade, refer, or in mental health first aid.
It just makes sense. If a feed rep sees that the feed inventory is stretched way too thin and the farmer is acting erratic and angry, that rep is in a much better position to say something than a doctor the farmer sees once a year for a checkup.
But that requires the feed rep to know how to say something, what to say and what not to say. Which brings us to segment 6, contrarian takes. How to actually talk to a farmer who is struggling.
This is the hard part. Because we are, as a group, socially awkward people. We generally like cows better than we like people.
The article contrasts the cheer-up approach versus what it calls radical directness.
Please, for the love of God, never tell a farmer who's in a deep hole that it's devastating. It sounds like pity. It sounds like you're writing their obituary while they're still standing there. It's the worst thing you can say.
So what should you say? What's the alternative?
Empathy, not sympathy. Something like, man, this is a tough spot. I know a couple of other farms going through this exact same thing right now. Let's talk through what happens next. It turns it from a feeling into a plan. We're good with plans. We can work with a plan.
It externalizes the problem. It's not you are a failure. It's we have a problem to solve.
Exactly. And then there's the hardest question, the one everyone is terrified to ask.
The suicide question. There is a pervasive myth that asking someone if they are suicidal will somehow put the idea in their head. All the experts, all the research says that is absolutely 100% false.
If they're at that point, trust me, the idea is already there. You're not introducing anything new.
So the script the source provides is simple and direct. You look them in the eye and you ask, has it gotten bad enough that you've thought about ending your life?
Direct. No euphemisms like hurting yourself. Just ask the question.
And if the answer is yes,
What's the protocol?
you stay. That's rule number 1. You do not leave them alone. You call for help, 988 in the U.S., or that 1-866-FARMS-EAR01 number in Canada. You remove access to lethal means if you can do it safely, but mostly you just stay. You listen. You are a physical presence that says you're not alone in this.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
It is, and I think, I'll be honest, I was skeptical at the start of reading all this material. I thought, here we go, another fluffy piece about feelings. But that link to lameness in the herd, the economic reality of the forever sprint, that made it real for me. That grounded it. Same here. It grounds the mental health crisis in the physical, tangible reality of the farm. It's not abstract anymore.
All right. We've covered a lot of ground here, some of it pretty rough. But a farmer just finished milking. He's driving to the feed store, and his head is spinning with all this. What are the 3 things he or she absolutely needs to remember from today? Give me the actionable insights.
All right, let's break it down. Immediate, medium, and long term. So, number 1, immediate action. This is for this week. It's simple. Post the numbers.
Okay.
Don't wait until you're in a crisis. Don't wait until an employee is struggling. Take a Sharpie right now. Write 988 if you're in the U.S. or 1-866-FARMS-EAR01 if you're in Canada on the parlor whiteboard. Put it on a magnet on the shop fridge. Post it in the staff break room.
And tell your team what it is, right? Don't just put a number.
Yes, absolutely. Normalize it. Say, hey, this is here. If you or anyone you know is having a tough time, it's confidential and it's for us. And here's a specific tactic I really liked from the source. The rule of 7.
The rule of 7?
If your personal stress level is a 7 out of 10 or higher, and by that I mean you are waking up in the morning already feeling behind before your feet even hit the floor, make 1 call. Just 1. Test it for an hour. You aren't committing to a lifetime of therapy. You're just checking the pressure valve on the system.
I like that. The rule of 7. It gives you a tangible metric. It's not just a vague if you feel bad. Okay, what's the medium term?
Number 2, medium-term strategy. This is for the next 3 to 6 months. I'm calling it the mirror check.
The mirror check.
Pull 12 months of your herd data. Specifically, look at 3 things. Your rate of severe lameness, your somatic cell count trends, and your fresh cow problems. Ketosis, DAs, metritis.
The mental health KPIs we talked about.
Exactly. Lay that data out. If the cows look rough on paper, if lameness is creeping up, if SCC is bouncing around and you find yourself snapping at the kids at home or kicking the tractor tires in frustration, treat that as a combined red flag.
So do just treat the cows.
Do not just treat the cows. Treat the operator. Recognize that it is a herd health A&D, a farmer health issue. They are linked. The herd is a mirror reflecting the well-being of the manager.
That's a good one. If the cows are limping, ask yourself why you might be limping, metaphorically.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the long-term play?
Number 3, long-term positioning. This is for the next 1 to 2 years. It's about legacy and training. 2 parts here. First, training. Get 1 person on your operations certified in QPR or mental health first aid.
Just 1.
Just 1 to start. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your most trusted employee, maybe it's you. Make it as normal as getting your CPR and first aid training. It's another tool in the farm safety kit.
Just part of the standard operating procedures for safety. I like it.
Exactly. And the second part is succession. Create a human column in your yearly business plan.
A human call.
Yes. We plan for corn yields, we plan for milk production, we plan for capital expenditures. We never plan for the people.
Right.
So even if you don't have a successor lined up yet, sketch out a rough transition plan. What would it look like? What are the options? Just the act of writing it down can relieve some of that immense pressure of it all ends with me.
That human column is vital. It's probably the most important column and the one we always leave blank.
That's the list. Post the numbers this week, check the mirror of your herd data this season, and start training for the future of your people this year.
solid, actionable advice. And look, to the listeners out there, we know it's tough right now. We really do. The milk price is what it is. The input costs are brutal. But you are the most valuable asset on that farm. Not the tractor, not the robot, not that high genomic heifer you just bought. You. And if that asset breaks down, nothing else matters.
Well said.
This has been another Bullvine podcast from the Bullvine Podcast. For more straight-talking industry analysis and for the links to every single resource we mentioned today, especially those hotline numbers, head to www.thebullvine.com.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're out with new episodes every day, and upcoming topics will be a real pivot from this one. We're going to tease the truth about heifer rearing costs, so stay tuned for that. And please, stay safe out there.